Hi guys, so today I'm going to be showing you my process of drawing and kind of how I plan it out and doodle. I've been taking a break from acrylic pouring recently and getting back into drawing, so I hope you don't mind that I do that. Here's a drawing of a cat that I did a little bit recently, and another drawing or self-portrait of myself and kind of how I experience anxiety, and another drawing just taking a little bit of a self-care kind of drawing to kind of get all my emotions out. I'm really proud of that one. So today you're kind of going to see another self-portrait. I'm not really sure what it's going to look like, but if you follow till the end, you'll see how it turns out, which is super cool. So this is me just thinking. So I decided to pick a photo off of my Instagram that I liked of myself. I don't have purple hair anymore, but I really liked how it looked on there, so I've decided that that's what I'm going to do. Normally I start off with kind of a shape of what the face looks like. Here I'm drawing out circles and to kind of give distinct shapes to my cheeks, my chin. I know those are kind of my most prominent features of my face that come out a little bit more, so I wanted to make sure that I mapped that out, as well as sort of my shoulders and my hairline and how that kind of falls over my face. So I recognize now that maybe the next time that I do this, I'll make sure to have the camera pointed at the opposite angle, because I noticed that my hand is covering most of the drawing, so I apologize for that. This is my first time kind of recording something that I'm doing. I also recently purchased a ring light, so everything looks so much brighter. So hopefully my videos will look a bit more crisp and clear in the future. But yeah, so sorry, my very silly hand is in the way. So on this part, I'm kind of trying to get my face on there. Typically when people kind of start drawing, in our mind, we normally assume that our face is a lot higher on our head, when actually our eyes pretty much fall right in the middle. So it may look like we have a really big forehead when we first start drawing, but then you'll notice once you kind of start to add color and shadows that everything kind of makes more sense and everything looks more realistic. Now, of course, if I was doing a more stylized approach, I could put the eyes wherever I wanted. But I did want to make this slightly more realistic. So now I'm just kind of making more detailed lines for myself for when I know I'll be grabbing some ink pens and some Copic markers. Because in the beginning you really only want to do a rough sketch. You don't want to kind of get married to the lines that you put down, because you might have to erase them anyway, and you kind of realize afterwards, oh, that line's not supposed to be there, or I looked at this incorrectly, the eye should be shifted up more. I'm that type of person that one of the hardest things for me to draw on a face is a nose. And especially when I'm like, yes, this looks like a very good looking nose. And yeah, see here, I'm erasing the nose, and I was very frustrated. I didn't want to do that, but I knew that my nose didn't look quite right. So right here is just the finishing touches, and I'll soon be taking out my Faber-Castell ink pens. So I really enjoy using these ink pens. They do bleed a little bit when you use the Copic markers over them. So if that's something that irks you, I then suggest getting some other ink pens, but I really like how versatile they are and the different shapes, and I really like using the brush nibs as well. But with this, I don't really use the thicker ones. I kind of stick to the thin ink pens. So now I'm just kind of setting up all my Copic markers, making sure that I have everything out and ready to be used. So you might be wondering, how did you get all these Copic markers? Because they're about $8 a marker. Good question. So I'm pretty sure the 24 pack that I got was a Christmas gift, honestly, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I bought the rest of these Copic markers, the 36 pack, was actually when I went to Japan the first time. So Copic markers, if you didn't know, are actually originally made in Japan, so it's a lot cheaper there. I mean, they're still expensive, but definitely not as expensive as they would be here in the US. So I love them. I've never really used them as an airbrush before, so maybe that's something I could try out on this channel in the future. But yeah, so here are the skin tones that I am using. I am, if you notice, a little bit darker than those shades, but with the lighting in the photo, I do look a lot lighter on there. So I'm just gonna stick with what I have. Using art markers is always really nerve-wracking, especially the very first kind of stroke that you put on the paper, because you realize, oh wait, there is no going back. It's not like watercolor where you can just put more water and lift the paint off. It's on there. And I guess that's what I find really cool about art markers is, well, once you put it down, you kind of have to work with what you have. So it's kind of like problem solving. So I actually noticed I forgot to draw my glasses, so that's what I'm doing right now before I go ahead and start using the art markers. Then once I'm doing this, I realized that my eyebrows were actually too close to the frame of my glasses, or at least in the picture my eyebrows are a little bit higher, so that's why I go ahead and erase them and try to adjust. So like I said, it's all just kind of rough sketching. You don't really want to put too many harsh lines. I'm using an HB pencil, so that's just kind of a regular kind of like what any standard pencil is if you were to buy them at Walmart or something. But I'm using it very lightly, so the pencil's easy to lift off once I use the eraser. And now we're back to the scary part, grabbing the Copic marker to put down the first stroke. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, see, this is me contemplating, okay, where am I going to put this on my face? Where does this make sense? Yeah, and then I'm like, nope, we're going to close that, and I'm going to give up. But then I come back and realize the show must go on. So here I am starting with the forehead, and I like kind of starting at the edge of an outline and dragging the brush down. And then, if you feel like, oh, that's a little bit dark, you can use the colorless blender to kind of blend the colors out. But I'm kind of just putting a base coat shade on my face. And yeah, so now I'm using the colorless blender to smudge everything out onto the white paper. I then go ahead and so my cheeks are actually kind of like rosy. So I found like the lightest pink shade I could find that I could use under my cheeks as well. See, and here's where I get really nervous because I used a more tan marker and it looks really, really harsh. So then I tried to like use it on other parts of my face to shade, but I think it still turned out okay. It's maybe not perfect, but yeah. And sometimes what you'll notice too is when you use certain colors, it looks good when it's wet, and then once it dries, you're like, wait, where did all my shading go? It kind of just soaked into the paper. But I'm also not using the correct paper. This is just a regular sketch pad that I had found at a convenience store in Japan. Mind you, I went to Japan probably like 4 years ago, and I hardly used the sketchbook, so yeah, that just goes to show how much I draw. But I'm hoping to change that now. So I don't know about you guys, but drawing lips for me has always been very strange. I have really small lips, and it's kind of like a rosy pinkish brown shade. And looking at my Copic markers, I really didn't have anything that matched. And the nice thing about Copic markers is, the colors do mix. They're all alcohol ink, so they will mix together. But again, you can't really lift off any color, so you need to be careful what colors you decide to put down first. So this is me trying to figure out my lip shade and failing, but again, it was all right. And now back to the scary part, the nose. Oh God, not the nose. But you must power through. And again, I'm sorry that my hand is covering my face and you can't see what I'm doing. I'll be sure to change that in the future. I always find hair really relaxing to draw. It feels very free, like you can do any sort of strokes that you want, and there really is no messing it up, because hair is always going in all different kinds of directions, especially my hair. I'm sure if it was curly hair, maybe I would not feel the same way. I have not mastered the art of drawing curly hair. I still just do spirals. So that's definitely something I need to work on. Um, Maybe that's some sort of study that I should do sometime soon. Um, and so my hair is actually not that light of a brown, but I find it to be very nice when you do kind of undertones first and ways to kind of add depth to your hair so it doesn't just look like one flat brown color or whatever color hair it might be. So I'm using really saturated purples, muted purples, dark, light, and then the same thing with the browns as well. Again, you might be limited to what color art markers that you have. But I've also mixed Copic markers with Prismacolor markers before, and I haven't had any issues with it. So if that's what you need to do too, that's totally fine. I know with this lighting, it looks like I'm using black on my hair and that all of the colors are disappearing. And I swear it is a dark brown marker. It's just the lighting, or maybe it's just this angle's making it look a lot blacker than it is. But you'll see as with the final product, it doesn't look as dark. And yikes, I always hate doing glasses as well. Glasses are one of those things that are not as free as hair. It has to look like glasses and symmetrical. Unless you have asymmetrical glasses. If you do, then please show me that because I've never seen that in my life. And as you noticed, I decided to pull out the Faber-Castell ink pen to sort of help me outline the glasses a little bit more. The Copic markers only have two different styles of nibs. So there's kind of like the brush pen nib and then a kind of chunky chisel tip nib. The chisel's really good at covering really big spaces, while the brush nib is more, you have definitely more control over it and it's for smaller spaces, but there's nothing really fine tip about it. So if that's something that you're trying to do, then you might be better off getting an ink pen with the color that you need. So now I'm kind of using the ink pens to go over my hair and add little kind of flyaway hairs so that it looks more realistic, I guess, and through the purples so that it kind of has more of a texture to it. I think ink pens are really useful to adding kind of whatever style that you want, and definitely texture. Big fan of texture. So now I'm pretty much done with my face. So this is where I kind of start to do the neck and chest area, and I'll begin to use the shirt, which will be relatively simple since it's just a plain white shirt with some shadows. So yes, we are nearing the end of this video. So what I do want to ask, if this is something that you like seeing, this kind of progress time lapse, then give this video a like and leave a comment and let me know what you think, or maybe even leave your Instagram handles. I'd love to see your artwork as well, because I've had a lot of fun doing this. If there is any advice that I would ever give to any artist, is contrast, contrast, contrast. Shadows, highlights, all of that. I'm a huge fan of shadows. I just feel like it adds so much more interest to the piece. So I'm really kind of putting that in on my white shirt since, I mean, no hate against white shirts, but it's kind of boring. So I'm trying to make it look a little bit more interesting. Did you guys ever have to do those? I think in my art foundations class in high school, we had to use pastels and charcoal to make, still lifes of drapery. Yeah, so this very much put those skills to the test for me. But they're basics and I had to learn them, and I think they were very useful. And now, as you notice, I'm adding some finishing touches, which is an outline on the white shirt. This does take away a little bit more of the realism to it, since obviously we as humans do not have black outlines around our body. But I think this is something that kind of brought the piece together, and I'm glad I made that choice. So what you guys didn't know about this video is I tried recording this about 4 or 5 times because the charger kept dying. It was about like an hour and 10 minutes of me drawing. So I was impatient and decided to draw the background and a little bit of calligraphy on the piece. So I apologize if that's something that you wanted to see, but it was kind of a very simple background. I wasn't crazy on making the lines super straight because I think for me it's just all about, I don't know, I just really wanted a bright yellow on there, something more positive in comparison to the other drawings in the sketchbook, which were a little bit more negative. But I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. And if this is something that you like seeing, then of course, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment. And I'd love to get to know all of you. And I'm going to go ahead and sign this because we all know that signing a piece now means that you are officially done. And you cannot go back in there and try to fix stuff because it's done. You've already signed it. No, I mean, you can do whatever you want. But thank you so much, and I look forward to making more videos in the future. Bye, guys.